It's July 16th, 2016. Hello and welcome. My name is Brian McAvoy.
And I'm Tim Shank. This is episode 4 of Two Cyborgs and a Microphone, brought to you by Twin Cities Plus, creating an intelligent, capable, and resilient community.
Today, our topic is artificial intelligence, or AI. Some think it's going to solve all our problems, while others are calling it an existential risk. Tim, can you start us off by defining what intelligence is?
Well, I gotta say no, Brian. The definition of intelligence is quite controversial. There's a lot of definitions out there, and there's little agreement amongst them. I like Lloyd Humphrey's definition, and I'll read it word for word here. It's the resultant process of acquiring, storing in memory, retrieving, combining, comparing, and using in new contexts information and conceptual skills.
When we had to answer this question, what is intelligence, I had to think about it myself, and I didn't really have an answer off the top of my head. So I had to ask myself, what do I really consider intelligence to be? And it turns out I kind of paraphrased what you had just said. I said, the ability to take experience and make new decisions. And that's kind of what Lloyd Humphreys was saying in a much more robust fashion.
You know, I kind of extend that even further. I kind of think of how we organize time, how we organize our environments as intelligence. I have a workshop, and in that workshop, I have systems in place, objects placed in a certain way that I can use them. I can do all of these things in Lloyd Humphrey's definition, which is retrieving, combining, comparing, and using them in new ways. So I extend even further than that to say that intelligence doesn't necessarily mean information.
Can you explain what you mean by doesn't necessarily mean information? What else would it be?
You can put intelligence into your workspace, which is why I alluded to my workshop. So my workshop is arranged, the tools are all racked in the order that I would use them to build a project. I have cutting and destruction tools, saws, blades, followed by different stages of tools. And I in some ways, I kind of count that as intelligence. It's an intelligent physical space.
Intelligent, or a synonym for that might be logical. It's arranged logically or for you intuitively.
Well, it kind of goes even back to the process of acquiring, storing, and now this one in Lloyd Humphrey says in memory, but we're talking about in space here, retrieving, combining, comparing, and using in new contexts. That all applies, even though it's not information and conceptual skills, as Lloyd puts it.
Okay, so what is artificial intelligence, AI?
We hear about it all the time. You hear about artificial intelligence in Google as AI and Siri for Apple. And it's really, I think most of the intelligence that we see in today's world is really focused around understanding how to communicate and interpret human cues, language, gestures, habits. That's where artificial intelligence seems to be now.
How do we define artificial intelligence? Is there a line that we can draw in the sand and say, okay, this TI-22 calculator is not artificially intelligent, it's just a number cruncher. Whereas Watson is artificial intelligence because he can do quite a bit more. Do we have a line?
I think so. I think what we're learning, especially recently with the development of neural networks, is that artificial intelligence needs to be able to make judgment calls. It needs to be able to take fuzzy information that doesn't have a single direct conclusion to be drawn and can make a judgment on that. A high probability that this is what the judgment would be, or this is what it means, which is a skill that really humans have exclusively.
Is that what you'd call our intuition?
No, I think it's quite different from intuition.
Can you give me some example of something you would consider artificially intelligent? When I was a kid growing up, my parents had a chessboard that was computerized. You could play against the computer, and it was a physical chessboard. And this was actually kind of cutting edge in the 80s when it was purchased. Would you consider that artificially intelligent?
I think back in the time, it definitely was considered that. But the definition of artificial intelligence keeps on changing.
Yeah, it's a moving target for sure.
I think it was Alan Turing who first said when a computer can carry on a chat conversation with a person and that person doesn't know, and the majority of people don't know that they're speaking to a computer, that counts as true artificial intelligence. But now recently, I think in the last 2 years, a computer did that, but it was pre-programmed to have language difficulties and to be a little campy, so it could say things that weren't appropriate or that didn't actually apply, and it did. It fooled a lot of the people that talked to it, but it was a trick.
I believe the premise was that the artificial intelligence was not using English as a first language.
So I'd call that a trick. It tricked people because it changed the context of the conversation to one that already had built-in communication problems. So those problems being not an English-speaking computer program using English in a broken or not exactly precise way, it gave it some liberty. So now I don't know where the definition is moved to now, but according to the the definition that we've been going on for quite some time, AI has been born. But I don't think that it's intelligent. Not like that.
If the target is constantly moving, but we've achieved it in steps previously, such as the chessboard, yeah, we've already achieved it, but you're talking about something that can pass the Turing test, and something did technically pass it, but we might have to now change the parameters of the Turing test.
Maybe so. Maybe so. But now we're also actually recently we're learning more about intelligence, even the human brain and human intelligence, but computer and machine intelligence as well. There's been a lot of work in that, especially with neural networks. Now, these neural networks, they can make those judgment calls. They can learn your voice and begin to predict what you want. And I think the Google app is a really good example of this. When the Google app was first starting to come into its own, my wife and I were sitting in a bar, a loud environment. She asked me a question about a French word that I had never heard in my life before. And I, in that crowded bar with tons of background noises, said, "Okay, Google." And I asked a question. It was the wrong question. I didn't form the question correctly. I didn't pronounce the word I was asking about correctly. But Google, even in spite of the background noise, wrote it all down incorrectly, rearranged the words, and formed a question with the right subject, and then gave me the correct answer. I was amazingly impressed at that point. Couldn't believe it. I think Siri does a lot of the same things. Siri is pretty intelligent. Now there's Cortana in the Windows systems. I don't have a whole lot of experience with either of those. Do you, Brian?
I watched my girlfriend use Siri. I have Android on my operating system. I've never even tried to use Cortana on my Windows devices. Now, something that's sticking in my head here is that we're using conversation as the benchmark for artificial intelligence. You gave a great example about language misconveyed on your half, but reinterpreted by artificial intelligence and spitting out the answer that you were looking for. It knew what you wanted and it gave you an answer. So I feel like conversation is not a fair benchmark.
I think you're right there, Brian. And what it really comes down to, I think, is the ability to make judgments rather than just calculate formulas and do math. I think when it comes to artificial intelligence, what really makes our computers intelligent is that they can make the correct choice some higher percentage of the time, even in absence of the required information. And we're starting to see that all over the place.
Cool. I think it's encouraging to see what we've accomplished, but it's downplayed by its inability to hold a conversation. So artificial intelligence is getting powerful enough that it can make these correct decisions based on what we want and give us the answer we're looking for.
I agree with you there, Brian. And there's been a lot of very, very intelligent people who've spoken out in the last year or so about artificial intelligence. There's a lot of fear out there, and I don't think it's warranted. And especially, it surprised me to hear bright minds like Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk, and there were 10 or 12 really exceptionally intelligent people who all came out and said that we need to worry about that. What do you think about that?
I think we do need to worry. In the same way that a parent worries about its child going outside, worrying about it doesn't mean you're going to keep the child inside for its entire life. At least I hope not. Worrying about it means having a concern that it might not make the right decisions. And you do everything you can in order to make sure those decisions are for the best of everyone. I think saying, oh, wait, we need to halt AI research is definitely not the right direction. I think worrying about it and being conscious of it, cognizant of what can happen and what should be avoided, I think that's very important. And I hope that's what those 10 people you talked about were voicing concern about.
And it was. I don't think there was any suggestion that we should halt our development of artificial intelligence, but there was a strong message that we should maybe slow it down, put on the brakes until we know we can control it. Here's the problem I have with all of this. We, as humans, having been humans for our entire life, have no frame of reference for other types of intelligence. We have all of these fears that artificial intelligence will claim our resources, will try to protect itself, expand beyond our control. Now, I think most of this, it comes from things that are human nature, that helped us as we evolved as people. We needed to acquire resources, make sure our families and kids were safe from the elements and things like that. These are all human nature that does not apply to something artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, trying to say that you know what artificial intelligence wants is like trying to say that you know how a dragonfly sees a blade of grass. It's such an alien intelligence that there's really no way for us to understand it, because we've only been in the human perspective. Artificial intelligence don't know lack of resources. They don't know what a tribe is or how to protect their family. It doesn't have a sense of family. There's all of these, it's a very different type of intelligence. We impose our own fallacies and our own biases on artificial intelligence when there is really no reason to expect that it would have a sense of gathering resources. It's never been out of resources from its perspective. An artificial intelligence wouldn't have a sense of conquering territory, which is something that's been key to human development. An artificial intelligence is the only intelligence in its environment. So there's all of these biases. I mean, there's all these drives and fears that we have from human development that artificial intelligence does not have anything like.
Now, by bringing up these points, doesn't that kind of denote the worrying that we should be doing? You're trying to think about this from the point of view of the AI, which I think is the view we should be taking. People who are developing AI should think, okay, this thing can learn. We're teaching it to learn. Great. How do we know to do that? Because it's the way we learn. So it's going to take after us whether we like it or not. Like you were saying, it's never known want. It's never known shortage. Is it going to encounter want or shortage? Is it going to say, you know what, I really wish my processor was faster, or I wish I had 12 times as much hard drive space? Is it going to want things? And thinking it from the point of AI, I think is the worrying that we should be doing.
Maybe so. I tend to think that it doesn't realize it has a processor for a brain any more than Neanderthal man had realized that there was an organ in its head. Neanderthal man, or even the early humans, had certain challenges, certain real risks to its gene lines that had to be protected and encouraged to grow. AI doesn't have that, Brian. It doesn't have competition. It doesn't have a lack of resources. It doesn't have territory to conquer.
So I saw an XKCD comic that explained this. And it said, the point where we create a machine as intelligent as the dumbest human, and the point in time where the machine intelligence becomes as smart as the brightest human, is going to be extremely small. Once we can teach something to be kind of like a human, it's going to evolve so much faster. We're going to go from a computer that's like, oh, wow, that computer is basically like a 2-year-old to, wow, that computer is as smart as everyone in a college put together.
But at the same time, we're still talking about an alien type of intelligence. I mean, you're comparing it to humans. And apply that same thinking to an insect, which is similar in the difference from our intelligence. So if you were breeding insects, would you have these same concerns about if you were developing some kind of new insect? Would you be concerned about an insect having those same drives, having those same concerns with an insect that is as smart as a college full of people?
I don't know which way my concerns would be pointed. I definitely would be concerned because I don't know. It would be worth thinking about. And I like the way you phrase about an insect because you're right. That's kind of,
It's just that alien.
yeah.
It's just that far outside of our ability to imagine it. We always imagine artificial intelligence thinking like a human. That's very unique to us, and we may never duplicate that. We don't even understand how it works ourselves. There's newer information every week or every month about new ways that we're learning that the brain processes information, that it's not happening just in the neurons. The synapses actually have some processing ability. Now even some of the area around the brain that is neither neurons or synapses somehow influences thought. We don't even understand in ourselves, with years and years to study this, how a human thinks. I don't know if there's even any chance, at least anytime soon, that we can create a computer that thinks like us. Now, a computer that thinks in a very alien way, I'd say that that's coming for sure.
So this might be a tough question, but maybe you can take a stab at it. What's the best and worst case scenario you see with alien-like intelligence coming to fruition?
I gotta say, Brian, I wouldn't venture to guess. I mean, there's just we have no frame of reference. We can only think one way. We can only think like humans. There's no way for us to think outside of that because we're thinking with our brains. I wouldn't presume to have any opinion on that, Brian.
Fair enough. We're getting into some pretty currently high-level artificial intelligence here, and there's one I want to bring up, which is Zero Music. That's an album by Malomix 109, and maybe our editor can put some of that in right now. This is the music that plays at the beginning and end of our podcast. This music was not written by a human. It was written by an artificial intelligence.
100% artificial intelligence written and composed. I think it's great.
And it was released to the public domain, so you can go download it. You can download it right from the Wikipedia page. I like it. I think it's good.
I do too, and not all of it's in the same vein as what I would normally listen to. I heard of Melomix a couple of years ago, and it's changed since then. I think it's a pretty clear demonstration that a product, specifically artwork, that we may consider to be entirely human, can be accomplished in nearly the same quality and with nearly the same artistry as a human can.
I'm anxious to see what the next thing is. I mean, for something to produce music, good music, is pretty exciting because that's something people go to school for quite a while to do. I can't do it. I've tried to write music. I've tried to write song lyrics and stuff, and I'm miserable at it. Music doesn't run in my family, whether or not you believe that sort of thing is hereditary. I don't have any ability to do it. I've built electronic instruments as projects, and I have no ability to play them. So the next art form that computers do is I think it's going to be exciting.
Well, did you see and I'm going to reach here for the term, the Google Inception Gallery?
Is that where the pictures all look like things have eyes?
Yes.
Oh, that creeps me out. They're fascinating, but dang, are they creepy.
Intensely psychedelic.
That's a good word.
It's interesting to see those because that is its own form of artwork. Now, what Google did to create those is it used its image recognition program, which is artificially intelligent. It's a neural network that was intended to find specific things in photos. So animal faces, dogs, cats, things like that. It would use the pattern recognition program to find the patterns. It would then enhance those patterns and then use the image recognition program again. So it was a loop of image recognition and image enhancement by an artificial intelligence. And those pictures are amazing.
Somebody must have just ran that loop a couple couple times or left it running and looked at the picture and realized, wow, this is kind of messed up. I assume it was more of a happy finding rather than an intention to make the pictures.
I think it was. Here's an article that I found in one of my newsletters. The world's first artificially intelligent attorney has been hired by a law firm. So the law firm Baker and Hostetler announced that they're employing IBM's AI Ross, and I don't have any experience with Ross. I don't know how that differs from Watson, but to handle their bankruptcy practice. And it sounds like they're going to replace 50 lawyers with one program, one AI. Pretty awesome.
That is incredible.
And I've heard that artificial intelligence for searching law documents for similar cases and precedents and things that's something very well suited to AI. I don't know how often that's being done, but I don't think this is the first time that this is. As far as being hired, that's the question.
Yeah.
I wonder how much they're paying Ross. Bet they're not paying him 50 lawyers worth of income.
I'll bet they're not paying Ross a penny. I'll bet they're paying the people who developed Ross.
I think that's interesting because now we are starting to see artificial intelligence performing human jobs. That's a big step. That's a really big step.
So this kind of brings up the point of automation has been taking manual labor jobs or simplifying manual labor jobs or making manual labor jobs more efficient. And it's been doing that since, the Industrial Revolution? And now our computers are starting to take over brain jobs.
That can be a little scary. I'm not scared of it.
Well, I'm not scared either because there's always going to be jobs. And whether or not you're operating a machine or operating a shovel is kind of irrelevant to me anyway. If I had to operate a machine that did my job 50 times more efficiently, that means that my company can take on 50 times more jobs or get them done 50 times faster. That just increases progress.
I agree with you, Brian, but at the same time, my understanding of corporate policy and practice, I don't think that they're going to hire 50 new people or do things 50 times as fast. I think they'll look at that as an opportunity to be more lean.
I think it's just a slow process of where these jobs go because now there's 50 lawyers out there who are looking for jobs. And eventually, let's say 99% of lawyer jobs are obsoleted.
No more lawyers? Ha! Where are the politicians going to come from then?
We are well on our way to utopia.
That takes us to a whole nother level.
Now, the people listening to this don't know, but I cannot stand bureaucracy. I've freaked out a little bit about having to get a passport. The sheer bureaucracy in it drove me nuts. If computers could take over some of that, I'd be okay with a pay cut.
Yeah, I think I would be too. I think one thing that we should talk about is the singularity. The artificial intelligence is really kind of key in the singularity. The concept of the singularity is that there is a point in the not-so-distant future where technology will be developing itself in ways and at a speed we cannot predict. Artificial intelligence plays into that. What are your thoughts?
The technological singularity is kind of the event horizon that we don't know what's beyond it. And I think this is what the 10 intelligent people were talking about when they said we should be worried. We should worry about what's on the other side of that.
Fear of the unknown is one of the most dangerous things that people can harbor. Fear of the unknown is really what stops progress. Understanding and things like that are very different, but to fear something simply because it is outside of us and our ability to understand is, to me, very dangerous. It is probably one of the main failings of the human organism.
I don't think it's fear. I think it's caution. I think it's saying that we should not charge blindly into this and make artificial intelligence because we can. I think we should make artificial intelligence because we understand what we're getting into. I'm definitely not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm saying we should look before we leap.
Fear of the unknown is one of the most detrimental human biases.
I think what we can both agree on is that we should exhibit caution. We shouldn't shy away from this. We shouldn't turn away, but we should not rush blindly in.
I agree.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap this up. Thanks for listening. Please join us for episode 5, where we'll discuss wearable technology. This is Brian McAvoy.
And this is Tim Shank. You've been listening to Two Cyborgs and a Microphone, brought to you by Twin Cities Plus, creating an intelligent, capable, and resilient community.